Thank you so much for participating today. We would like to start Japan Automobile Manufacturers Association press conference. Because of the COVID, we would like to prevent the spread, and it's held online. So let me introduce the four people. So Akio Toyoda, Chairman. Masanori Katayama, Vice Chairman. And Yoshihiro Hidaka, Vice Chairman. And Seiichi Nagatsuka, Vice Chairman. So, from Chairman Toyoda, we will have a speech. Hello. We've got only a month to go in 2022. The biggest theme this year was, as expected, carbon neutrality. 2 years ago, the government declared that Japan will achieve carbon neutral society by 2050. Since then, we've been desperately saying that we need to correctly understand the issue. The enemy is CO2, not the engine, and that CO2 must be reduced in all phases of energy production, transport, and consumption. Japan offers light automobile, motorbikes, and large vehicles, and variety of options such as hybrid EVs and hydrogen cars. That is why we've been saying that Japan has its unique ways of attaining carbon neutrality, taking advantage of its strength. We've shown our efforts in auto races and at the actual scene of social implementation. That is why more people came to empathize with us. With that backdrop, we had Prime Minister Kishida visit a car manufacturing site in June. At Toyota's Motomachi plant, we showed the Prime Minister competitive mixed line production, which will eventually have the full electric vehicle lineup. It's not easy to pursue diverse options. I believe the Prime Minister felt firsthand that this pursuit has been possible due to the strong manufacturing site that's been making down-to-earth effort. In September, Keidan Lane's Mobility Committee was set up. Carbon neutrality and innovation towards mobility industry requires coordination across industries. At the Mobility Committee, more than 200 companies committed to working together. Under the leadership of Chairman Tokura, more and more companies joined hands. Furthermore, we've been able to hold dialogues with Automobile Caucus of the LDP and Prime Minister's Office. At the meeting on mobility at the Prime Minister's Office, I conveyed my wish, asking for an automobile industry's active role in creating Japan's future. Looking back at the past 50 years, we faced crises such as the oil shock in the 70s, trade friction and strong yen in the 80s, and collapse of bubble economy in the 90s. Auto industry worked desperately during every crisis and changed crisis into opportunity. And Japan has been the pioneer in developing fuel-efficient car technologies and vehicle electrification. As a result, Japan's auto industry reduced CO2 emission by 23% during the past 20 years. At a global comparison, this is quite a large reduction.
Of course, comparing to the situation in 1980 to that of today, the sales have risen dramatically from 20 trillion yen to 60 trillion yen, and both taxes paid and foreign currency earned have increased from 8 trillion yen to 15 trillion yen. Above all, we have continued to protect the employment of 5.5 million people. Let us work for you. Of course, in terms of including rail and air, the greater mobility industry employs 8.5 million, and in the future, it's expanding to 10 million. Let us work for you. At the root of this desire is a trust in the workplace and the human resources who work there, which have been preserved by the automobile industry. We believe that human resources who have acquired skills and technologies are the source of Japan's competitiveness and the driving force that will create the future. Rather than dismissing the future as an extension of the present, we must link the efforts of the past and present to the future at all costs. I believe that this is the responsibility of those of us in management who live in the present time. Prime Minister Kishida has kindly told us that automobile industry is the central pillar of the economy and employment, and that mobility is the central axis of the new capitalism. We are grateful to hear those words. As we have continued to work together with the 5.5 million people in the automotive industry over the past 2 years, our circle of support has expanded to include the Keidanren and the Prime Minister's office. However, I believe that the key to success starts here. Of course, in the new year, the spring labor management talks will begin, and the auto industry has an important role to play in contributing to a vigorous cycle of the economy and society. The G7 summit in Hiroshima in May will be a vulnerable opportunity. It's a valuable, opportunity to have world leaders understand Japan's unique path to carbon neutrality. We will create opportunities for social implementation through the Mobility Committee and accelerate activities to expand options. Come this autumn, we will have our first motor show in 4 years. At the board meeting of JAMA just held, we decided to announce this official name, Japan Mobility Show. We will like to show the future of mobility and the power of all Japan with an all-industry approach, including startups. I believe that next year will be the year to show the world Japan's unique way of climbing mountains and Japan's underlying strength by working together with many colleagues and unifying the hearts of the public and the private sectors. I hope we will continue to support as we will continue to receive your support. Thank you very much. We would like to be the pacemaker.
Thank you so much. Now let's move on to the Q&A session. Today, this is an explanation forum from JAMA, and please, we cannot accept any questions for the individual member companies. We would like to entertain many questions as possible, so please limit your question to just one. And if you have questions, we will designate you. So please, if you're designated, please put the microphone and video function on, and please state your affiliation and your name. So if you have any questions, please push the hand raise button. So, Mr. Yamane from NHK, please. This is Yamane from NHK. So at the very top, Chairman talked that the Prime Minister Kishida and the mobility members held a mobility committee. So please, how do you feel about it? And how will JAMA utilize this framework and to promote the events? I will answer that question. Thank you. At the committee, I said that Japan has not grown a bit during the past 30 years. That's what I said at the outset. And we've been supporting, or the middle class has been supporting the growth. And in the past 30 years, the middle class has waned. You can see from this graph. And the future of Japan has to depend on people working hard and to import resources and to process them and to get money, the foreign currency. That's what the auto industry has been doing. We need to invest actively, and we need to protect, and we have been protecting the basis of manufacturing and employment and international competitive edge. And so we would like to maintain this strong middle class. And auto industry economy is, as you know, that we have a lot of ripple effect. That's 2.5 times, 2.5, that's higher than any other industry. And we have 5.5 million workers. So we'd like to look at it as mobility industry. So the information and transformation and travel, and also we have about 8.5 million altogether in that. So if we sharpen our competitive edge, then through the DX and EX investment, we can create another 10 million people working in this industry. And in creating new values, this cannot be done alone by the auto industry. So in that sense, the Keidanren is leading this mobility committee, and the 5 associations that's related to the auto industry is supporting this committee. So we are very happy, and we think that this is a big first step. We're now standing at the starting line. However, compared with the past changes, right now there are so many changes going on, and at a very big magnitude. So in such a situation, based on the auto industries, we need to grow. We can say it. Saying is easy. However, the reality is quite harsh. However, auto industry has been fighting globally, and the positioning in Japan is that the sense of crisis is shared by Prime Minister, and so Prime Minister took up this issue, and we're now at the start line. So we appreciate, we thank the Keidanren and Prime Minister's office and the related ministries and auto industry for setting up such a committee. We are so happy that we're at the start line. So now we have to think about how do we increase the number of workers from 5.5 million to 10 million. We want all of them to feel thankful about this. And so I hope that you will all support us. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, and 2 chairmen who were with me at the committee, I'd like to hear their comments. This is Katayama. So I was able to be with the chairman. Well, I feel the same way as the chairman. Let me talk in my own words. So attending the committee, and I felt at this timing, we have all these people lined up. That's really a great thing. Prime Minister and the related ministries and Keidanren and JAMA and the JAPIA and the chairmen were all there. So that was really extraordinary. I felt I really had to make effort to realize carbon neutral society. And the biggest problem in Japan is the growth strategy. To discuss the strategy, it's not enough to have just one industry or just the private industry. We have to have all the core members, and we can now have the committee to engage in a real down-to-earth steady discussions. Of course, there's not enough time to discuss everything. So I hope that this committee can engage in solid discussion to make decisions. And I felt that the committee is able to do that. So by being at the committee, I strongly felt that. And thank you. This is Hidaka. I attended the Prime Minister's Office's Mobility Committee, so this is how I felt. With the mobility at the axis, Japan's competitive edge should be strengthened. So the mobility industry will be setting the pace for that, and that strong declaration was made. I feel that I really must make effort as a part of that industry. The basis of competitive edge is the manufacturing site and the service people, the competitiveness of those areas. And in Japan, we still have that strong competitive edge at the manufacturing site. And I think that if we strengthen it, we can really realize this. I strongly believe so. Chairman Toyota made such a comment, and I totally agreed with him. And also, the part industry, we have been maintaining competitive edge globally. So the part industry will like to contribute to strengthening the competitive edge in Japan. Now for the future, as the chairman mentioned, we are now at the start line. And we have so many themes, and we need to prioritize the topics. That's the first work that we have to do. But anyway, the government and the private industry came together at the start line, and now we can issue our position internationally and to compete with the framework in Europe and US. So I would like to make an active contribution. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Mr. Yamane, for your question. That was Yamane of NHK. And next, Mr. Okuda from Kyodo Tsushin, please. Well, thank you very much for today. This is Okuda of Kyodo Tsushin. At the initial part of the speech, Chairman Toyoda talked about the remaining 1 month and what to look for in the next year. In terms of JAMA, what are some of the focal points for next year? If you could elaborate on that further, that would be appreciated. And also, there is a scheduled G7 summit next year. And of course, we had a theme today, but next year, carbon neutrality continues to be the theme, I believe. And I would like to hear JAMA's view as to which are the important key areas to focus upon. Of course, as a JAMA, what are the focal points for next year? That is the essence of your question, and that is the theme that we have decided on as the board of JAMA today. So I would like to give you some updates from Mr. Nagatsuka, our vice chairman, on the details of board decision. And regarding carbon neutrality, later on, of course, myself, Katayama-san, Hirano-san perhaps can add comments. So we will, in sequence, reply to your question. Thank you. So I would like to first inform you what has been decided by the board regarding the activity key points of JAMA next year. And in terms of the strategy, there are 4 pillars that we are looking at. These are 4 important areas. One is competitiveness and tax area. And then the second point is, of course, green transformation, DX, including carbon neutrality. And the third point is DX and Mars. And the fourth point is making sure that we have all the fans and collaborators with us. And in terms of carbon neutrality, specifically in terms of the action plans at G7, we would like to show this course of Japan unique approach to carbon neutrality. We also would like to appeal to our peers in Asian region so that we can collaborate together. Of course, we'll be leveraging public-private different groups who will work together with us. And of course, auto industry shall act as a pacemaker for the facilitation of carbon neutrality. Of course, making use of hydrogen and synthetic fuel would be some of the options that we'll be examining. So those are the points decided in the board meeting held today at JAMA. In terms of the specificity of carbon neutrality, we will add a further explanation. Of course, as you have mentioned, this year already, this was a big theme. So we shall continue to expand on providing various options and also having a group of peers and collaborators to work on this theme. And of course, through the race activities, and of course, Mr. Toyoda himself is a racer. So we have specific considerations that we have aforementioned. We will make sure that JAMA acts on them. And of course, in terms of towards the 7, what we have envisioned is what automotive industry shall do for carbon neutrality. We shall analyze past, present, and future. And then in terms of the past, as I said in my earlier speech, the auto industry was on the very forefront of other industries, even globally, said in the last 20 years, we have reduced 23% CO2 emissions. This is a high achievement, even from a global standard. And we are a front runner in terms of emission cuts. And of course, at JAMA, we are ready to tackle each and every options available as we see to facilitate carbon neutrality. Of course, EV is, of course, effective, but perhaps it's not the only option. In other words, from a car maker point of view for global competitiveness, what we do a business in is an environment where there is quite a bit of diversity. So we need to have diverse options for diverse users or drivers of cars. And of course, rather than work within the current framework and try to project that to the future, what we shall do is to combine and mix different approaches to cutting CO2 emissions. We shall act on anything and everything that we can do now. Of course, there are different strategies in place. Of course, working on the road system is one of those possibilities. So in terms of of manufacture, transport, and use. It's transportation, using energy, and creating the mobility society and the town itself. I think we're ready to really tackle these issues. Well, I also would like to add, of course, the chairman and the Nagasaka vice chairman have already commented on the key points, but I would like to also add the following. At G7 summit of next year, of course, carbon neutrality is yet another year of important discussion would take place. And of course, in terms of various options and having multiple passes to the realization of carbon neutrality, that is quite important. Of course, Chairman Toyoda had mentioned Japan's unique approach to carbon neutrality. Of course, Japan has its own, but yet other regions have their own, situations. Their landscapes are different, and thus the options are different. Of course, there are 3 case studies, and we have done estimate calculations. And 2050, of course, 1.5 degree, within 1.5 degree temperature change, and we've done 3 different analyses to it, and there are different passes to it. There are different avenues to it. It's not, moving away from EV, battery-based options. What we are saying simply is that it's not just the EV, but yet we have all the other options. And this needs to be a challenge that is jointly tackled by not only developed countries, but also emerging countries as well. It needs to be a global challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Okuda. So let's go to the next question. Yomiuri Shimbun, Mr. Tsuzuki. This is Tsuzuki from Yomiuri newspaper. Thank you for your explanation. My question is 2023 tax revisions. So one of the focus right now is the auto tax, and the opposition or a government is thinking, the ruling party is thinking about the revision and the new kind of taxes. And the chairman has always pointed out that Japan's car tax is the highest among the world. So there's going to be reduction in fuel tax because of the electrification, and your request is not to raise the mileage tax. So there has not been any specific tax revision for the next year, but they're thinking about the mileage tax introduction. So in this tax revision, what will be your request? Yes, I will answer that question first, and then maybe Mr. Nagatsuka can supplement me. Yes, you're right. The Japan's car tax is the highest among the world. That has not changed, and it's very complicated. So we would like the government to simplify that complex system and also to reduce the highest car tax among the world. We've been saying that for a long time, and for the car users and light vehicle users and motorcycle users, they are all Japanese. In the future, what kind of tax system will be a good one? I think the auto industry the tax is high, but we're not simply asking for a reduction of tax rate. As I said, auto industry is facing once in a century change, and we have to make huge investment in infrastructure to change the industry to a mobility industry. So we're in a position to need money, and the tax revenue, where is it? The ministry is fighting over the tax revenue. But we should not just do that. How do we want Japan to be in the future? So all the taxes that's been collected through the car-related tax, how do we utilize it? That kind of discussion should take place. I really strongly voice that. The Mobility Committee and at the Keidanren, and also the Mobility Committee at Prime Minister's office, that has made a good basis for the discussion. So in order to strengthen Japan's competitive edge, we need to look at the whole tax system in Japan. So we're asking for a drastic tax review, and I think the first step has taken place. We're not seeking for short-time results. With this as a starting point, we need to enhance Japan's footprint, and so we need to discuss in such a discussion. Okay, let me supplement some things. As Chairman said, as for the tax on cars, we need the steady and down-to-earth discussion to make a new tax system. So for next year, we have the yearly request, and also we feel that this is the first step towards the drastic review. As for the short-term request, because there is a huge inflation going on, and also there is a prolonged delivery period, the users have burden. So we hope that there will be improvement in the tax reduction so that users can switch to electrified cars. The eco car reduction system, there is a narrowing the scope of eco car that enjoys tax breaks. So I hope that that will not take place, and that this tax reduction will continue. Right now, people who want to buy eco cars, they have to wait for 6 months, and the end of March they're narrowing the scope of the eco car, and that will inadvertently affect the users who want to buy electric cars. So I hope that this system, tax system scope, will continue. And as you asked, this mileage tax, the government tax systems research committee is studying that. That's a report, and we feel this is problematic because policy-wise, EV and FCVs right now is a period to promote electrified vehicles, and if you introduce the mileage tax, that will be a brake on the penetration of electrified cars. And secondly, it would also be an increased burden on people who live in local areas, and also distributors and people with huge mileage. So, especially people in local areas, they need the cars to go to work or to go to school. So every time if they use cars and if they are levied tax on this, I don't think people will accept this kind of tax system. So without facing such reality and without having nationwide discussions, if you implement this kind of tax prematurely, we are adamantly opposed to it. And also, you should not engage in a discussion to fill in the gap created by decreased fuel tax with mileage tax, but we should engage in a nationwide discussion that's accepted by users.
Thank you very much for your answer to my question. Thank you, Mr. Tsuzuki, for your question. Of course, we continue on. The next question will be addressed by Mr. Kondo of Asahi Newspaper. This is Kondo speaking of Asahi Newspaper. Thank you for the opportunity to address the question. Of course, from me, I would like to talk about labor management negotiation and the wage increase. My question is for Chairman Toyota. Of course, there is consumer price hiking, and of course, in order to cover for the price hike of commodities and retail products, there seems to be a 2% wage increase expectation. Of course, 5% increase in wage for the auto industry. Of course, you have been kind of on the forefront of increasing wage for the industry. What is your opinion for next spring labor management negotiation? Well, as for the auto industry, it's not just employees, but also all the stakeholders, including shareholders and such. The car industry has returned its profit as a distribution back to them. Of course, even in harsh economic conditions and a deflationary economy, we have increased our employee size, and of course, average 5 million yen times 120,000 increase of employees. That's how much wage power that we have created. Of course, auto industry has been providing a wage increase on continuous level. It's not just a single year effect, but multi-year effect ongoing. But the beneficiary of such is only 30%. On the other hand, 70% of the 5.5 million people don't belong to labor association, or because they don't even have the labor association. And Japan as a whole, 80% of the people are not even at the negotiation table because they don't have the avenue through labor association. So we are also looking at these 70% or 80% people in order for us to influence them in a positive way. We need to act promptly and properly. Of course, we haven't really been given enough praises of word. Of course, media oftentimes would report the headline at the beginning of the year from the dialogue session. People are very keen on getting that headline percentage number, and it was a full acknowledgement and acceptance of the request from the labor union. But we are looking at a broader scope. We have to look at those who don't belong to labor unions and extend this wage increase, ripple effect to them as well. Japan is a society where, of course, including the middle class people, everybody needs to be granted a place to work. Of course, I'm not going to say that the car industry should be respected as a model case by other industries, but we do understand that we have such a large ripple effect as an industry, and our behavior over the past when it comes to the wage trend perhaps could be a good learning point for other corporations. And again, my emphasis is not just those 30% of the people who belong belong to labor unions, but also the other side of the circle, who include those who don't belong to labor union. We have to see, from Japan's wholesome perspectives, and all citizens of Japan should be, uniting efforts and perspectives. And for that, I encourage media support as well. Thank you. Thank you.
So we just have few minutes remaining, so we would like to just entertain one more question. Terasaki-san, please. Thank you. I am from Best Car. My name is Terasaki. So this is the last question. So you talked about the next year, in 2023, there will be Tokyo Motor Show after 4 years. So you changed Japan Motor Show. So can you explain about this motor show? What kind of show will it be? And also, the Tokyo Motor Show, at this timing point when the industry is facing a once in a century change, what will it aim for? Oh, it's not Japan Motor Show, it's Japan Mobility Show. Sorry? In 2019, the last show, we really wanted 1 million attendees. And when the auto industry conducts an event, we were able to show that we are able to gather 1 million attendees. So at this mobility show, we hope that we can have 1 million people come to the show. We'd like to plan for the event so that it can draw many people. And we changed the name. Well, it's an industry show, and it's also the Japan Mobility Show. However, for details, tomorrow, Nagata Committee Chairman will explain about Japan Mobility Show. So there is heightened interest towards this show. So how do we think about this show? Well, in a word, it's based on the car at the center. We'd like to really Japan to become active, and we have heavy cars and light vehicles and passenger cars. And in the world, I don't think that there are any other mobility show that has this kind of broad lineups. And under the framework of mobility, other industries can also join. So B2C is a car industry, and we will be at the center to vitalize Japan. So we have a lot of probably topics coming up.
Thank you very much for your reply to my question. Well, thank you for addressing a question. I'm sure the media reporters have additional questions to address. However, with respect to time, we will be closing this press conference of JAMA. Thank you very much for your participation for today.